12th, 2025 board meeting to order. The minutes from our last meeting have been distributed and approved. As everyone knows, our sole agenda item today is a significant one: the potential acquisition of Reynolds Corporation. This move could redefine our market position for decades to come. Bill, the floor is yours to set the stage.
Thank you, Eleanor. Good morning. For the past year, we've been analyzing the shifting retail landscape. While we are strong, the market is consolidating. Reynolds represents a monumental opportunity. They have a massive footprint and a loyal, albeit slightly different, customer base. Combining our operations would create an unrivaled leader in the department store sector, giving us immense purchasing power, a vast physical and digital network, and the ability to compete with the largest online players. This isn't just about getting bigger, it's about getting stronger and securing our future. Phil, can you walk us through the financial landscape?
Of course, Bill. I've distributed the overview, but let's hit the highlights. Financially, we are in an excellent position to make a move. Looking at our 2024 year-end numbers, Gamble Corp has a rock-solid balance sheet. We have over $1 billion in cash and short-term investments, with total debt at a very manageable $521.6 million. Our net income was $593.5 million on roughly $6.5 billion in net sales. We are lean, profitable, and cash rich. Now, Reynolds, they are a much larger entity in terms of top line revenue, posting $22.3 billion in net sales. However, their net income was $582 million, almost identical to ours. They are carrying significantly more leverage with total debt of nearly $2.8 billion and total liabilities exceeding $11.8 billion against assets of $16.4 billion. So the opportunity is to acquire their scale and customer base, but the risk is integrating their massive debt-heavy operation without sinking our own pristine balance sheet. The key to making this palatable for Reynolds' shareholders and for us is to structure this as a tax-free reorganization. And for that, I'll turn it over to our advisor, Dr. Croft, to introduce the framework.
Thank you, Phil. The term tax-free is a bit of a misnomer. Tax-deferred is more accurate. Our goal under the Internal Revenue Code Section 368 is to structure this deal so that Reynolds shareholders who exchange their stock for Gamble stock do not recognize an immediate gain or loss for tax purposes. This makes the offer significantly more attractive. To achieve this, any structure we choose must satisfy several overarching judicial doctrines. There must be a legitimate business purpose beyond tax avoidance, a continuity of business enterprise, meaning we must continue Reynolds' business or use a significant portion of their assets, and crucially, a continuity of proprietary interest. The last one means a substantial portion of the deal consideration must be our own stock. With that framework in mind, our team has analyzed four primary paths under Section 368. David, perhaps you can start us off with the most direct option.
Certainly. The first and simplest option from a corporate law perspective is a statutory merger. A type A, reorganization under Section 368, subsection A, paragraph 1, subparagraph A. Under this structure, Reynolds would merge directly into Gamble Corp. Under state law, Reynolds would cease to exist, and Gamble would be the surviving corporation, absorbing all of Reynolds' assets and liabilities by operation of law. Isabel, your turn.
I like the sound of that. It's clean, one company, one integrated vision from day one. We could immediately begin harmonizing the brand message and customer experience, no confusion in the marketplace.
I'm less enthusiastic. Absorbing all of Reynolds' liabilities is a phrase that gives me pause. Phil just noted that they have over $11.8 billion in liabilities. We would be taking on every single one of them, known and unknown. Pension obligations, pending litigation, environmental issues at old properties. A statutory merger offers us no shield. That's a tremendous risk to our balance sheet.
Sophia raises a critical issue with the Type A reorganization. While it is the most flexible in terms of consideration, you can use some cash or what the code calls boot without disqualifying the entire reorganization. That flexibility comes at a cost of total liability assumption.
What about a less commingled approach? I was intrigued by the stock for stock acquisition, the B reorganization. We keep Renault as a separate entity, a subsidiary of Gamble. It gives us time to understand their operation, their culture, and their liabilities before we consider a full integration down the road. It feels more like a strategic partnership to start.
That's an excellent point, Marcus. The Type B reorganization under Section 368, subsection A, paragraph 1, subparagraph B is indeed structured that way. We would acquire at least 80% of Reynolds stock in exchange solely for Gamble's voting stock. The key word here is solely. The IRS is exceptionally strict on this point. If we give their shareholders anything other than our voting stock, even a small amount of cash for fractional shares, if not handled correctly, the entire transaction's tax-free status is jeopardized. There is no room for error.
And that solely for voting stock rule makes it difficult from a financial standpoint. Reynolds is a large publicly traded company. Orchestrating a tender offer to acquire 80% control solely of our stock would be a massive undertaking and could be highly dilutive to our current shareholders' value. We'd have to see a significant number of new shares. The B reorganization is clean from a liability standpoint, but operationally and financially rigid.
Which brings me to the option I find most appealing, the Type C reorganization, the asset acquisition. Here, we don't buy the company, we buy its assets. We can cherry pick what we want, and more importantly, leave behind the liabilities we don't.
It's not that quite a free-for-all, Sophia. To qualify under Section 368, subsection A, paragraph 1, subparagraph C, we must acquire substantially all of Reynolds' assets. For IRS ruling purposes, that a benchmark of at least 90% of their net assets and 70% of their gross assets. So we can't just take their flagship stores and leave the rest. Furthermore, after we give them our voting stock for the assets, Reynolds must liquidate and distribute our stock to their shareholders.
Operationally, that sounds like a nightmare. What does that entail? Transferring titles for hundreds of properties? Renegotiating thousands of vendor contracts and supply agreements? It feels like we'd spend a year just on paperwork, and the disruption to their business, and by extension, our new investment, could be catastrophic.
Bill is right. An asset acquisition is incredibly complex from a legal and administrative perspective. Every single asset must be individually transferred. It's a monumental task that invites errors and delays.
I believe there's a structure that balances these concerns. It's a variation of the A reorganization called the forward triangular merger under Section 368, subsection A, paragraph 2, subparagraph D. It seems to be the modern solution for a situation just like this. Here's how it works. Gamble forms a new wholly owned subsidiary. Let's call it Gamble Acquisition Sub. Then we merge Reynolds into that subsidiary. Reynolds' shareholders receive Gamble stock, and our new subsidiary, which now holds all of Reynolds' assets and liabilities, is the surviving entity.
So are the liabilities contained? They don't attach to the parent Gamble Corp?
Exactly. The liabilities of Reynolds are ring fenced within the subsidiary. It gives us the liability protection of a B or C reorganization, but with the legal simplicity of a merger.
Phil has articulated this perfectly. The Type D reorganization is often the preferred path. It avoids the strict solely for stock rule of a B reorganization, though the consideration must still be largely parent stock. It avoids the administrative burden of a C reorganization and provides the crucial liability shield that a direct A reorganization lacks. We would still need to ensure the subsidiary acquires substantially all of Reynolds' assets, but it's a much cleaner process.
From a branding perspective, this is also very appealing. We could operate the subsidiary as Reynolds for a transitional period. We don't have to immediately force the Gamble brand onto their customers. We can manage the integration thoughtfully, retrain the brand equity they've built, and slowly introduce the connection to Gamble. It'll give us strategic flexibility.
I agree. It's the best of both worlds. We get control and the assets, but we also get an earlock between their liabilities and our parent company. We can innovate within the subsidiary structure without putting the core company at risk. We can test new concepts in the Renault branded stores.
This feels right to me. It addresses Sophia's very valid concerns about the liabilities, David's concerns about the administrative burden of the asset sale, and Phil's concerns about the rigidity of a stock for stock deal. It gives Isabella and her marketing people the flexibility they need, and it seems to be the most balanced and strategically sound path forward.
It appears we have a consensus forming. Does anyone have any strong objections to focusing our efforts on the forward triangular merger structure? Hearing none, what are the next steps?
The next step is to have our legal and our financial teams, along with Dr. Croft, draft a detailed proposal and preliminary term sheet based on a Section 368, subsection A, paragraph 2, subparagraph D structure. We will model the precise stock exchange ratio, the post-merger corporate structure, and a timeline for regulatory filings. We will need to engage our investment bankers to formalize the valuation and approach Reynolds' board.
Excellent. Let's formally task Phil, David, and Dr. Croft with preparing that detailed plan. We will convene in 2 weeks to review the draft before we make any official approach. This is a company-defining moment, and we must proceed with precision. Thank you all for the productive discussion. This meeting is adjourned.